All right, let's get going here. All right, some other folks may flood in here. We're going to cover a lot of things this week. So you never like really think about it, but then when I do these kind of like go back and look at what's the news over the past 2 weeks, a lot has happened in Cool Cats when you kind of group it together in like a week time frame here. So but today we're going to go over some Cool Cats news, some things that happened in the past week that are happening very soon. We're going to talk to retroquility here, who's got some big news about something he's been working on. If any of you don't follow Retro, give him a follow on Twitter. Take a look at some of the stuff he's been teasing. There's some Gameboy action there. He's been hard at work on this, and I don't even know the full details, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he's gonna drop for all of us here live on Spaces. And then we're gonna do a deep dive into the lore of Cool Cats. So if you guys did notice and did see, a Gitbook was dropped last week or earlier this week by the Cool Cats team. It details out sort of the rules and geography of the world of Cool Cats. So we're going to dive into that. And for anyone not interested in reading that whole thing, it's pretty lengthy. And anyone who doesn't want to read a long thread, consider this like a live Spaces, like Good Night, Sniper, Zupa, everyone kind of like live thread. So if anyone ever wants to know like what the world of Cooltopia is about, you can jump on in here and re-listen to this. And to top that off, I also messaged Clon earlier today to see if he would be willing to jump on to answer a few questions. He said most likely he'll be able to come on during that segment and see if we have any clarification about things about the world. So I think that's super exciting. So let's dive into the news here. So we'll start with the small things. One is new apparel merch went live on the Cool Cat store. So if you saw, there's a ton of new shirts out there. A lot of it designed by a senior illustrator on the Cool Cats team known as Kitty Cakes. We're actually going to have her on the Spaces in a couple weeks after she dropped some news that she had recently designed that one-on-one grass cool pet. Reached out to her and said, hey, we'd love to hear about kind of your role in terms of working with Clon and hearing how you guys kind of illustrate these characters that Clon created together. So if you haven't checked out the new merch, go on store.CoolCatsNFT.com, take a look at them. I picked up some stuff for my kids, so I'm excited to get that in the next coming weeks here. Did any other guys check out any of the merch? I know right now it's just some apparel, but I like that there's just more stuff.
No, I like that there's more stuff. Me personally, I haven't picked up anything because I'm too busy being broke. But besides that, I do have my plush, my chugs, and the Cool Cat head, and I will say I'm a very big fan of those. So if there's still some in the shop, I do encourage those out there to go pick them up because I am absolutely in love with mine. If I had to be Team Chugs or Team Cool Cat Head plush, I'm definitely going to have to go Team Cool Cat Head, though, to be all the way honest. So that's my take, though.
Oh.
Yeah. I actually grabbed, I think, a white bucket hat. And I was actually really scared because I know Zupa mentioned his haul the other day and was super impressed with it. But he kept saying hat, and hat was too big. And he didn't specify which hat, so I haven't received it yet. I'm hoping it's not the bucket hat. I don't want him to confirm. I like living on the edge. So we'll see if it's the bucket hat or not.
Well, I could confirm with you. No, it's not the bucket hat. So you're good. I got the.
Let's go!
I got like the normal. Where is it? I have it right here. It's just this normal hat with like the adjustment in the back, and I put it on my head, and it's like wearing a pancake. So pretty strange.
That's how I felt about the NYC bucket hats. Those were ginormous, like huge.
I did not get a bucket hat, but once you get that fit going, you gotta give us the details on that. Then we got the raffle tickets lottery, which pretty much none of us won. Let's all be real here. Like none of you guys won. Like what? Does anyone know who did win? I know Gatos, and I'll pin the tweet. He's the only one that I saw that actually tweeted that he won that raffle. So congrats to Crypto Gatos who won it. Good for him.
No, yeah, that's the I was about to say I think it was someone else, but once you pinned it, no, that's the same person that I've seen as well. But congratulations to whoever else won. If they never get announced, well, still. But yeah, shout out to Gatos.
Yeah, so we got the raffle tickets, we got the new merch, we got the world building, which we'll talk through. Then we got a big tease for tomorrow. So I guess there's a tech update here. Let's see what gets dropped. My guess is, and I'm pinned the tweet, I think it's the nursery. So if you guys had noticed, one of the tweets I did earlier this week was in the code of the Cool Cats website, we saw details about a pet nursery where you'll be able to drop off your pet at the nursery and it'll kind of auto hatch. Depending on how long that takes, we don't know. It could be immediate, it could be days, it could be weeks, but either way, you don't have to go through the grind of selecting what items you feed it every day. And you actually get to specify up front like what type of element you want it to be. So if you're saying like, let's drop it off at the nursery, be a grass pet, then it'll eventually come out as a grass pet. I know that's something a lot of people have been asking for. I know like Farouk and Horndog have been on the auto hatch train for a while. Any of you guys gonna actually do the auto hatch?
Oh yeah.
I mean, me personally, I don't have no eggs. I kind of maybe it's just me, but I wish it would have came out a little bit sooner. Just so because I'm greedy and I wanted to use it. But no, I'm really happy that it's coming out, and I'm curious to see if we get any more one of ones at a quicker rate. Now that we have this coming out, but no, I'm liking what they're doing.
Very nice. And then we got another tease for just they're rolling things out pretty quick in the next few weeks. Boss quests. So again, it looks like that we're gonna have a couple boss quests. That's gonna come to Cooltopia next week. We'll wait to see what goes on there. Again, very curious how the gaming mechanic works. If you looked into the code, you could see like there's some rock paper scissor mechanisms and some mini game aspects to it. So I'm hoping it's not just like kind of like click fight boss and then like you got whatever coins. I hope there's some gamification associated with it. Retro, what are your thoughts on this? I don't know if you looked into any of that.
Yeah, I looked into it a little bit. I think I'm on the same boat as you. I would love to see something a little bit more advanced than RNG. Just considering, while yes, it's fair, I think it would be cool to see a little bit more strategy come into play, considering there's different rewards. On a game basis, doing something like rock, paper, scissors is pretty rudimentary, and I have done that for a couple of my Game Boy games already. So would love to see, what comes out of the boss battles. But I guess something that I'm now curious about is, will the boss battle system be the same as the battle system that was proposed for pets against other pets? If that's the case, I could see that rolling out soon after, but I would like it to be different. I think I touched on this last week with Hawkward on the intricacies of Pokemon battles. Would love to see something a little bit more complex on that side as well, with stats and some crazy numbers. So those are my, I guess, 2 cents on that.
And Zupa, you ready? You ready to battle? Zupa's a gamer too. He's ready.
Yeah, I mean, Retro said it pretty much anything I would say. I agree with everything you just said. I think it would be pretty important that we get a little bit of interactive gameplay here at some point instead of just clicking buttons. That would be really awesome. So yeah.
Nice. And I'm just breezing through the news here because I want to spend some time on the lore. A couple other things that we're expecting to see this Friday. So no town hall this week, but they got, I don't know what to expect from this. Like a full length, what I understand is like full length Cooltopia NYC documentary or video. There's some like live viewing associated with that. So we'll see what that's all about. But there's also a tease on the new character launch on Friday. Where are your folks bets on who's launching first?
Honestly, like from the way I saw it, like with the little like character selection finger going over each of their heads, I didn't think like they would release one at a time. It gave me more of the impression like maybe it'll be random, maybe we'll have some sort of choice. I don't know. I really don't know, honestly.
Yeah, my bet's on Joe the bird. I think we've been getting a lot of teases on Joe, so we'll see what's going on there. But again, this Friday, if anyone's viewing like full length Cooltopia NYC video documentary, what have you, and then a new character launch on Friday. Retro, let's cut it over to you. You've got some news. What's going on? What's going on in your world? We got a rug here. Retro.
I can act like Retro for a minute.
Yeah.
Here
He's coming back
Here
now.
he comes.
There we go. Retro, you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Can y'all hear me?
Some bad timing, damn.
Yeah. Can y'all hear me?
All right. Yeah. Tell us what you've been working on.
Yeah, so I have been working on a Gameboy game called Coolmatchi. Sorry if you can hear like some pet noises. In full celebration, I'm at the pet store. Not getting a cat, but getting some dog food. But I've actually been working on this Gameboy game called Coolmatchi. Coolmatchi is a really cool game, and it incorporates my cat as well as some cool pets in the community, including some of my cool pets. It's basically a Tamagotchi. So it's in the same premises of, raising a pet until, full evolution. And it's all based on RNG. And the whole point is you get to evolve and see which pet you get at the very end. It's more of a collectible. I am going to be dropping something in approximately 30 minutes. And there will be some that will, commence a milk burn. That's all I will say. Can't do anything without, burning some milk. And then after that, we'll do some other stuff to get into the hands of, the community members. So I've had a lot of people that are super interested, but I'm super hyped to, share this with people and to give people the capabilities of playing this. But yeah, do you all have any questions for me as far as this game goes?
Is this something that we're going to be like minting with milk, or is that more details to come on that?
Yeah, so more details to come with that for sure. But I think it's a little bit of, I think you're getting around the spot. Yep.
How long have you been working on it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've been working on it for maybe about a month now. I think this is one of the games that I really did put a little bit of, some time and effort in, and really some thinking in between. And as far as this game goes, I also did, reach out to the team and stuff, and got some of their approvals there. So super hyped to, to be getting full support there, and you'll see some cool pets that you may remember from. I think I put out a tweet that was saying, hey, if you have a cool pet, and you want to let me use it, let me know. So, yeah, and I may do one extra special thing as well. Depends on what the winners, what the people say and what they think about, what I propose.
Were there any major difficulties or even minor difficulties that you faced while trying to make this?
Yeah, it's actually a great question. I think the first thing that I wanted to do was, be respectful of the CoolCat brand. So while I am using my cat and some of my pets, I wanted to be respectful because, whenever you're putting something out there, especially if it's a brand that you love and, you hope to one day work with, you want to be respectful of how you go about it. So I think the hardest thing was just, on a more candid basis, was just getting in contact with a team. But I think the greatest asset and the greatest help there was Sean. She, I reached out to her and said, hey, like, can you help me out? I'm just having a little bit of a hard time keeping up with getting a response back. And I know it's all because, there's a lot going on, and there's, it's a very busy couple of weeks and month here at, the CoolCat community. But she was able to, just kill it. So I was able to get a response real quick. And then once I got the green light, I was able to go full-fledged. So yeah, super hyped about that.
Oh yeah, man.
I remember when I met you at Cooltopia NYC retro, and then one of the things you mentioned that was like shocking to me was like you like taught yourself how to do this in a really short amount of time, didn't you? Like what was that like for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I actually started with game dev in January. I do have some experience with coding from college, but it was nowhere near or anything familiar. I started with game dev as a way to kind of stand out and what was seemingly the whitelist grind and stuff like that. And I said, hey, I have this analog pocket, and for those of you who don't know what an analog pocket is, it's essentially it's a brand new Game Boy that uses this technology that basically allows you to play on original hardware. And by original hardware, I mean, the original games you used to play on, and it's on this brand new, super advanced screen, and it can play Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Sega Genesis. There's a bunch of handhelds that it can play. It's also just a really, really good system. But the main thing about it is that you can actually create your own games and play them on there. So that's how I got started. And then it received a lot of, positive feedback. And I was like, well, I need to keep going. I need to keep, advancing. And then I learned about being able to write my own cartridges. And from there, I was like, okay, well, what if I start making the labels as well? And I think the very next thing I want to start getting into is maybe learning other games from the past. I love to do GameCube. It's one of my favorite systems. PlayStation 2 as well. But yeah, that's kind of how it started. And that's, essentially how I am, right now making Coolmatchi.
That's awesome. And if anyone hasn't talked to Retro, like he's always got like 10,000 ideas on Cool Cats games and like what mini games could be, what would be fun. So if anyone from the Cool Cats team is listening, he's not a bad person to hit up to get some cool ideas for game ideas, big and small.
Thank you so much. Yeah, but I'll be putting out a tweet at approximately 8:45 Central Standard Time. So, what is that? 14 minutes from now? 13, 14. Honestly, I can't math right now. I'm super exhausted. Yeah, it's been a long day. But 45 couple minutes, I'll be posting a tweet, and I would just say get your milk ready.
That's awesome. I've got it ready. Let's go. All right, we blasted through the news faster than we ever have. We got through retro stuff. That gives us enough time to really talk about lore here. So I do want to invite Clon up to the stage. And this'll honestly, I think, be more just this isn't quite an interview with Clon to walk us through the lore. Like we'll walk through it, but I think it'd be interesting an experience for Clon to kind of see how we've interpreted it and see if we're on base or off base with certain things too.
Yeah.
Clon, what's going on?
What's up? No, I'm super excited. I like you said, I'm excited to see how you guys interpret all of this. And I do want to preference and say Link truly is, as I've coined, the dungeon master of Cooltopia, because he it's so much fun to watch him. Like I throw him a new character, or he comes up with a new idea, and just like watching him run with it. Him and his wife, it's been really fun to watch. And he what really sold me on him going all in on the lore is when he told me about all his years being a dungeon master in D&D, and even finding some of his old videos about miniatures that he made, or and I don't even know if he wants me telling y'all this, but it's just you can see the passion behind it. And I'm excited that you all finally got to read this this world lore book, because it's been in the works for a while.
That was going to be one of my first questions, because that's what I noticed reading through it. It's so, you could tell a nerd wrote it, like someone who, in the best way possible, like capital N.
Yes,
I'm like, this guy has spent years doing this kind of stuff. This is not his first time at the rodeo. Like he loves this. I can tell.
It's like if you've ever built a Minecraft world where you like want to have a theme. Actually, that was a poor example, but like it was just fun seeing him take the template of Cool Cats and then going, like you said, nerding out on it and just making it about like that kind of cool fantasy. You know, I was about to say Dungeons and Dragons again, but yeah, you get the idea.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So it sounds like the process too, before we dive into it, just question, like the process is like it Link has pretty strong autonomy over, like, you know, I mean he'll work with you on it, but it sounds like you're feeding him ideas and he's just running with it. Is that kind of how?
Yeah, and I don't even want to say I'm feeding him a lot of ideas because like it sort of got to the point where we had like our initial discussion about everything and like kind of what maybe time frame or setting that we want this in, and oh yeah, the world map that you just pinned. Sort of like honestly, he came up with that because he's a lot better at thinking about like geography and where things should be and why. Like you probably read in the, not to get ahead of myself, but like when he's thinking about climate and seasons and landscape and like, you know, that might not have been something I would think of when creating lore. And so he's really thinking it through and setting us up for just opportunities to use each part of this world in a lot of unique ways.
Nice. Sniper, Zupa, Retro, you guys got any just baseline questions before we dive into the sucker? I'm also kind of stalling a bit because I know Horndog was like, I'm gonna join in 20 minutes, so he's gonna join any minute here. But before we get started here, Sniper, you read through this. You've been reading through it. Like what's been on your mind? Maybe not like the detailed stuff that we'll walk through, but just like the concept of everything here.
Okay, so I'm really anxious for us to get to, if we do, like I said, the farm and domesticated animals and stuff like that. But overall, just like looking at the map, seeing where Sapphire Town is now, seeing how much else we have to explore, I'm really anxious to see how it's going to go. Now, are we going to have the basic Cooltopia that we have now, just in different spots? How are we going to go about it? I mean, there's a lot of things to unravel, and I guess, you know, knowing the timeline, it could take years. But yeah, I'm just curious to dive in, and once we get to the animals, then I'll kind of throw more specific questions at that.
Retro.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Zupa. Go ahead, Zupa, and then
I
Retro.
was just gonna say real quick. I mean, it's just exciting to, you know, see it, visualize it. Gives you, like, you know, better understanding of what it is, you know. And one question I have for you is, you're going to read in a British accent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can keep that up for 10 seconds and then I fall out of character here.
Just have to make sure.
Yeah, I guess real quickly, I'm not sure if we've already discussed our favorite part of the lore, but figured it'd be cool if we all kind of gave insight on what our favorite part was real quickly. Just, you know, maybe like top down, like what area or like what component. And then I think at the very end, would love to see what Clon's favorite part of the lore is, or maybe like what he's most excited to put out there, I guess, in a graphic representation, you know?
Sniper.
I was reading through, and because I have it open beside me as well. I was really excited reading through. I might sound like a nerd, but the climate and the seasons, that, and just knowing that, like, you have the different seasons, knowing that they, from what I'm reading, maybe I'm wrong, it looks like they could play a difference in how the gameplay could go. Maybe a certain season, you only get certain items during that season. You only see certain things out in the world during that season. I don't know, but I like how in depth that they're trying to go with this. And it really does, as Goodnight would say, seem like Link is a big nerd. Um, but I really like what he's putting together, and reading through it, it looks very well put together. So I'm excited about that. That's been my big thing, the climate and seasons.
Yeah, and I came in really like drawn in by that map. So like the geography aspect of knowing where things are at, that's always been a big thing for me with any story building. I think what surprised me that I actually really liked was a lot of the this is like the nerdiest part. It's like the historic wars. It's like there's all this war that has happened in Cooltopia, and I'm like, this is getting pretty dark here. But it gets pretty detailed where I actually found myself laughing out loud, where I'm just like, I can't believe Link and his wife are writing like this level of detail of like animals with like characters with like PTSD in the city because they've like experienced war. So like we'll dive into all that, but I thought that was like really really amusing. So I think let's dive into this. So one thing I'll note is that want this space to be something where we'll timestamp it, but basically anyone who's like not wanting to read through the whole Gitbook can start right here, and we'll walk through like the highlights of what the Cooltopia World Gitbook told us here. So I read through it 2 or 3 times. I took feverish notes. I reorganized everything. You guys know how I like to write threads. I'm like, this is way too big for a thread, so I'm going to organize in a way that makes sense. And let's walk through it there as like a structure, and we can pause at certain points and just kind of see like what stands out to us. So I think overall, like when you get into that Gitbook, one of the things you see is just some baseline, like this is modern fantasy. I thought it was hilarious that it said it was rated PG. It's not even rated G. There's some like parental guidance needed for the world of Cooltopia. And it sounds like that there is like violence, there's fighting, but not extreme violence, and anyone who gets hurt doesn't get hurt for very long. They're not like amputated wounds or anything like that. It already sounds really dark, but it's not that dark. But it also lays out that cool cats live in relative peace, and that there's like an odd attack once in a while in Sapphire Town. But I think the first part that helped me kind of orient around things was the geography. So when you look at that map, I think we think about Cooltopia as kind of like the world. But if you look at that map, it kind of details out 2 big continents, like 2 big lands separated by sea. So you have Cooltopia on the left side, and then you have the Wandering Territory on the eastern side there. And Cooltopia is, all these lands look like that. They're kind of, include different landscapes like marshlands, rolling plains, mountains, deserts, oceans, rivers, lakes, jungles, and forests, etc. And it also seems like that a lot of land hasn't been fully explored yet by the Cool Cats. My guess is that that wandering land section on the east is a lot of that uncharted territory where you just have places that are, not as civilized, and that have creatures that, may be unknown. And within this whole 2-continent world, you have like cities, towns, and villages throughout. So I'll do just a brief breakdown of the cities as quickly as I can, in the towns in each of these worlds like that are notable. So Cooltopia, you have probably what is like the biggest city. I see this as like, and Clon can confirm or not, but this feels like the New York City of Cooltopia. It's like Diamond City. Diamond City is the capital of Cooltopia. You've got like up to 100,000 sapient creatures, what you would call them, but it's a pretty big dense city. It's the most diverse in population, which Link confirmed when I was pinging him on in Discord about it. So it is like New York City, and it's a port city, and it's the largest known in all of the Cool Cats land. Then you have like Jasper City, which is the 3rd largest city. It does a ton of trades. I think there's some war associated there, but not too much to note at this time on that. Then you have Sapphire Town, which is home mainly to the Cool Cats and connects pretty closely to Diamond City. But that's kind of the place where most of the inhabitants, I believe, are cats. And then you have Obsidian Town, which is particularly interesting to me. So if you look on the map of Cool Cats, in the very southwestern corner, you're going to see a town called Obsidian Town. And for this specific town, it's surrounded by forests, coasts, by insect nests. And I think they're like the loners of Cooltopia. Like they're a town that's like completely just closed off to the rest of the other towns for the most part. They have like a monopoly on insect parts, and that's how they kind of make their income and their money. But I'll pause right there. That was a lot. Clon, how close was I with some of that?
You're definitely on the right track. And I was gonna say I forgot to answer earlier about like kind of my favorite geography location, and to me it's Diamond City. I think Diamond City is going to be a really cool like part of all of this and how it plays into the lore. Because like you said, I think that's confirmed. It's basically like the New York City of Cooltopia. It's the one with the most ports. It's kind of in the north, and away from most things. So I'm super excited. Yeah, but you were spot on.
Oh man, yeah. And anyone else? I know you're probably reading through it too. Did anything stand out to you guys from the geography portion there, or
For me,
was that?
I would say that I'm really excited because it seems like from what we've seen in recent tweets and code that the next place that we will be exploring is the Clumping Desert, and that's where we will see the sand golem boss. With I don't know if you can confirm that, Clon, but does that seem the direction we're going first? Is towards the Clumping Desert?
I feel like we've hinted at it enough.
No, but
that's all I'll say.
I really like that, and I'm really curious to see, how we'll get the different trophies and just what direction we take after that. I really like the fact that we have a big map now. I can take us like a look back and be like, okay, this is where we've been. We're going this way. This is what I can think about. So I'm happy with it.
And then two cities or towns that I forgot to mention. That was all in Cooltopia on the first continent. In the Wandering City, you have Calcite City, which kind of sits on the western border there. That spans the vertical there. It's like jungles and coast. I just picture it as like Puerto Vallarta. That's pretty much what it is. I'm pretty positive that's canon. And they specialize in metal and gems. And then you have Jade Town, which is located nearby. Those are the two ones in the Wandering Territory. I found it interesting that the Wandering Territory, which is like kind of like a more uncharted land, had these kind of big cities. But we'll wait to see what goes on there. Zupa Retro, anything from the geography that stood out to you, or you kind of just vibing with it?
Yeah, I think for me, I have to agree with Sniper there. I'm a big desert region fan. I live in Texas, so I basically live in the desert. Not really, but even in playing games and stuff, I feel like there's so much you can do with the desert, and just to have supposedly and hopefully some boss battles coming up there. I feel like there has to be more with it as well. So would love to see, what else comes with the boss battles there. Will we see even more, graphic representation of this desert? What about the treasures that lie in this desert as well? I think deserts are really cool because, there's a lot of mystery to them. And I think, it would be a good area, and it's, hopefully next week. So, yeah.
And then I think we saw like was it Link or the Cool Cats account posted like that Tepnu map was like basically recreated in the form of this map on the southern border, which I thought was like awesome attention to detail. So it's all connected. And then the next piece here, let's talk about creatures. So creatures, this gets into, I think, obviously there is like a ton to unpack here. And Sniper, I think we get into like the pets and stuff too further down. There is a big distinction between pets and kind of sapient species and all that stuff. So I'll walk through kind of how it's broken down. So when you look at the world of Cooltopia, you have kind of sapient species, which are made up of kind of like mammals, I guess is kind of how you put it. You got the Cooltopians, you've got wanderers, and then you've got sort of neutral or evil creatures. So for Cooltopians, that's basically kind of the main character cast, it seems like. So you've got Cool Cats are considered Cooltopians. You've got Feather Clan, which are birds. You got Scale Kith, which are lizards. You've got the penguins. You got the monkeys, the sea herds, which are like sea otters, shy sloths, goatmuns, which are like humanoid goats, and ferret folk. And all of these are, I'm guessing, like looking at the upcoming characters, like you see a lot of connections there in terms of those creatures aligning to types of Cooltopians. And then when you get to the Wanderers, those get into some of the wolfy, foxy type creatures. So you got shadow wolves, which um, actually detail out in the book, like what are shadow wolves? They're uncivilized, they're aggressive, they're like gray wolves that live primarily in that wandering territory, so that eastern continent area that we talked about. And they work, they fight humanoid creatures if they need to protect their resources, but they don't sound super friendly. And then you have foxkin, which are also wanderers that are basically foxes, stealthy, and they live with the shadow wolves. So it'd be interesting to see how that comes to life. And then I'll round this out and then we'll pause it. But the neutral evil characters, this was one of the most interesting things. So this is like the biggest conflict we see in Cooltopia, I feel like, which is the Calamites and then the Underkin. So Calamites are this is kind of freaky, but it's basically like they're like physical manifestations of emotions, like whether that's sadness, happiness, fear, or anger. And it looks like they're almost like parasitic. They attach to other creatures, other people, and kind of put like evil intent into them. So and when they attach to Underkin, which are the other type of creatures, then you've got trouble there. So like the Underkin are these like ugly looking goblin rat like muscular creatures, and they live beneath the ground in caves. And the creepy thing is like they swarm together in huge packs, or as like they mold together into one single large Underkin, and they're like aggressive towards anyone but their own kind. So I'll pause there. That was like a lot to unpack there, but I particularly love like the part about the evil creatures. What about you guys?
Okay, yeah, you said a whole lot that I probably won't unpack altogether. I'll say what I was reading over was the domesticated part where you have the cool pets, which we already have seen those. You see the dogs, and you also see the horses. So I'm really, really, really curious to see, even if they don't do nothing, like it says, the dogs are lazy and like enjoy lounging around the house, and the horses. So, for example, let's say if you go from one part of the map to another part of the map, will it take a certain amount of time? But if you have a horse, it's a shorter amount of time. Is there going to be a mending for horses and dogs? Do we even see them come into the ecosystem in that way? But just seeing all the animals overall, like chickens, fish, alpacas, dogs, horses, I'm very curious to see all the people draw them, what they've seen before. Me personally, I have stalked Clon's Instagram in the past, so I've seen him draw a dog, and it looks really cute. But no, that's the one part that I'm really, really like zoned in on is the how the farm animals and domesticated animals will play.
Klon, how much of this is kind of based on characters that you've had? Or there's so much here. Like, I'm just curious, kind of like, I guess one question is like, did you ever imagine dogs and horses in your world as pets, and even like evil creatures in the world?
To be honest, no. Like with a lot of this stuff, it's fun having another person like think through a lot of this. And like what's cool is like kind of like you said, Sniper, like pulling from the past, you know. Like I've just and like a lot of stuff you guys have never seen before because they just live in sketchbooks, and like it's crazy going from like looking into old works and just being like, oh wait, this could work into the story, or like Link might come up with an idea, and then I, like I said, like look back and see if anything works. So it's fun to see it all kind of in a document. And honestly, it's just fun hearing you guys talk about it and like speculate.
Did you I think we always think about Cool Cats as like a friendly brand, everyone's happy, but there's like a lot of conflict in this. So is that something that maybe not this year, but like you eventually think we'll see in the future? Like, I mean, any story has conflict, but the level of conflict is like dependent, like can be very relative. But I'm just curious, like, has this opened up your mind in terms of directions to go in
Oh
terms
yeah.
of
Oh
conflict?
yeah. Well, and like anything, history repeats itself. So we might see that in Cooltopia as well.
Retro, what animals do you want to see in your gaming?
Oh man, for me, I'm a big dog person, so I want to see some dogs for sure. Um, but I think overall, from just touching back on recently what you discussed, I'm just really excited for all of it and to see how they look like and to see if we're gonna see any graphic representations of these on a future Clon live stream. So I'm super excited for all of them, but I'm most excited about the dog. As soon as Sniper said that he saw how dogs are drawn by Clon, I was like, dude, I need to find that. So if anybody
I
has that
picked
clip,
it up.
please.
That's the one I thought.
Yes,
He snuck it in a portrait today, and ever since I've seen it, I've been really impressed with it. So
can't wait.
To be
Oh,
honest,
there we go.
I did forget about this dog. I forget about a lot of the details in this drawing. But anyways, I don't mean to derail.
This is hilarious. I've never seen this. We got a horn dog in the house.
Heyo,
What's going
Horn
on?
dog.
what's up?
You're in the thick of the lore right now. We just
Oh,
walked
boy.
through some geography, some animals, some evil animals that exist in Cooltopia. Did you have a chance to scan through the lore yet, Horn Dog? Or are you buried in legal battles?
I have been buried in IRL stuff the past like 2 weeks. So I have not taken the deep dive I know you have taken. Is there like a consensus? Do we know what the most evil creatures are?
We do. I think these Underkin and Calamites, like these are, one is like a goblin, muscular rat-looking creature, and the other is like a parasitic like spirit animal. It gets a little freaky here in Cooltopia.
Wow.
Yeah. Then we got so yeah, the farm animals. I think that'll be super interesting. Chicken, sheep, alpaca. I thought it was interesting that in the farm animal and the pet section, particularly the farm animals, it detailed out like what those animals are useful for. So like chickens, it's talking about like, they lay eggs and eggs can be used as a material. Sheep and alpaca have wool and that can be removed to use to make things. And then fish is acquired for food, et cetera, et cetera. So that'll be exciting. Sniper, what do you got?
I meant to say it, and it kind of ties in here. Whenever it came to the seasons, I was wondering if during certain seasons, maybe certain days kept you inside. Let's say, for example, it's raining, so you can't go gather materials. Therefore, you might get it from one of the farm animals. I don't know, but I thought it would be interesting to see something like that or how it will play out.
I think that's super cool. The concept of how seasons affect how things happen in Cooltopia and what you can and can't do. There's also a part on so we've talked through kind of the creatures of Cooltopia. We've talked through the geography. This part's probably the quirkiest part, which is like the societal structures, I would say. So like this gets into like when we're talking about like nerdy stuff, this is the super nerdy stuff Link is probably thinking of. Like government. Like there is no formal government in Cooltopia outside of Diamond City, which we'll talk about, which has some like royalty going on. But it seems like for like each town, each city is kind of governed by local elders. And there's also a number of like craftsmen, like guilds, if you will, like orders, like whether they're farmer orders or builders or fishing, herbalist, heroes, blacksmith, etc. They've kind of have their own guilds associated there. And then from like a legal perspective, there are no laws written down in the lands of Cooltopia. But if there is a crime committed, it looks like that. So this gets into like the policing in Cooltopia. You have local guards, which guard towns and villages, and each one's kind of like govern themselves. But then Diamond City has royal guards. So I'm picturing like in Star Wars, where you have those like red stormtroopers, those red guards that guard the Emperor. Like I feel like that's what I'm picturing when I'm seeing like these royal guards, where they're just like the top-notch cream of the crop guards, and it looks like that local guards may at times reach out to the royal guard in Diamond City for help. And the strictest punishment in Cooltopia, this sounds just ridiculous saying out loud, but it's like you can be banished from Cooltopia if you've committed a really bad crime. It's rarely been done, but they basically just give you, whether you're a cat or another creature, they give you supplies to survive, and they send you off to live the rest of your life in the wilderness. Like I said, like this is getting really dark. Like,
Bro,
I don't
that is cold-blooded.
This is cruel.
Like pure banishment?
Yeah. Like, here's your stuff. Here's like rations. Here's a tent. Goodbye.
Damn, man.
The more we go through this, I really feel like I'm reading like the RuneScape white paper or something. This is crazy.
For real.
I'm telling you guys, this gets pretty insane. This is for anyone that's read through.
When's the first in the fantasy series?
Oh God. Oh no. But Link he's got some things going on in his mind. He goes to dark places. But then we've got so that's basically how laws and government work in Cooltopia. And then you get into class structure. So class structure is basically you have they say there's no real class, but there is kind of class if you read between the lines. So you have royalty, which is like the king, queen, and council of Diamond City. That's like the top of the top. And these are people that have proven themselves to be like veterans, heroes, or well-respected innovators. And then you have just like normal folk that are just like living at a relaxed, slower pace. Like this is like the Hobbiton of Cooltopia. They're home dwellers, they're workers. And then you have adventurers, which are like their own class level. They don't care about the law. They don't care about government structure. They give the Cooltopian finger to that, and but they are like more respected by non-adventurers, and they've become more respected over the years as they've helped like fight some of these quests and wars that have been going on here. And the cool thing about living in Cooltopia, working in Cooltopia, having a job, you only work 4 days a week. So you have a 4-day work week. That's pretty solid. And then there's even a line about prejudice, which is like the people living simple lives like perceive like a sense of greed coming from the royalty class, and that they're trying to hoard all the treasures for themselves. Like, Clon, you got to say something here. Like, what is going on in Link's mind? What's happening here?
Yeah, sometimes I wonder that myself. But I don't know. I don't know what to say, actually. I feel like I want to stay quiet.
And then the interesting part that I'll round out kind of like the social structures is there's this whole section on milk, and I thought this would be interesting for anyone that's interested in kind of the story behind milk. So it seems like milk is the official currency in Cooltopia. You can earn it through farming, building, working, and other activities. But milk comes from the sea. So there's literal places in Cooltopia where there's like bodies of water that are milk. And they're generated from pores in the seedbed that continually feed milk into the water above. And it's like something that's highly prized. It's zero lactose, and it's impossible to recreate. Like it's not man-made, it's not cat-made. You can only get it from like pure sources. And due to like the high sought-after nature, a lot of settlements basically reside near the coast of where the milk seas are. The other piece with milk is that since milk as a liquid is not something that is easily used as a currency, they've started to use coins and notes instead of the traditional cartons and bags of milk. And that the majority of the milk is kept inside a bank with a huge royal vault in Diamond City to store the vast quantities of milk that are owned by Cooltopians. At this point, I don't even like know what I'm saying anymore. Like I sound like a crazy person, so I need someone to like jump in and save me because I'm not on planet Earth anymore. I'm literally just in Cooltopia.
Do you think you've read enough to like write a spec script for, you know, an episode of the Cooltopia cartoon?
I think I've read enough where there's so many different movies that you could do here. Like imagine an Ocean's 11 of the robbing of the Royal Vault. Like imagine just like royal class wars, like with the uprising social classes. I don't know. I'm just
You're already thinking expanded universe here. You're not like, oh, what's the first trilogy? You're like, I want the gritty, military story and cool. So it's like when people are like, oh, they're doing more Star Wars stuff. Let's get Star Wars but darker.
This is
You're like, I want the heist movie.
Yeah, I'm on the Disney Plus spin-offs of Cooltopia right now. Like the 8-episode series, like small characters doing their own thing kind of thing. But Retro, what do you got?
Yeah, I was just going to see if I could real quickly come with a real quick intermission and just let people know to check out my most recent tweet that the Coolmatchi raffle / minting is now live. So you can basically mint a NFT version of the Coolmatchi cartridge for 500 milk. And then, 24 hours after the minting out, I'll live stream a raffle in the Coolcats Discord where 5 holders will be selected to receive a physical cartridge, and I'll go ahead and ship it out to you. And then, just a little something to get some milk burning. I'm going to work on some more ways to get these cartridges out to members in the community, both pets and cat holders. So, yeah, just wanted to put that out there. And, yeah.
I also just pinned it at the top for you.
Thank you so much.
Let's go. This is awesome. I'm definitely
Is it frowned upon if I buy a lot of tickets? I really want a cartridge.
I think it's
frowned upon if you win.
Okay. Yeah. No.
Rigged.
Right.
I know.
Milk refund. I want it in cartons and bags.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Actually, we don't do bags. Sorry.
Yeah. Environmental.
I don't know.
Sorry.
Is there any bag lore?
Is there any bag lore? No, I specifically told Link we cannot have milk bags.
No bags.
Yeah.
That is. So you asked what's the most evil part of Cooltopia? Milk bags.
Just plastic, wasting plastic in nature-filled land. It's
the milk bag wars.
Yeah. Good times.
Instead of the Clone Wars, that's how it starts, right?
It always starts with that. Speaking of wars, we're gonna get to that because I'm gonna. If I haven't sounded crazy yet, I'm going to sound crazy in a bit, talking through like some of the wars in Cooltopia here because it's literally certifiably insane. Link.
All right, I didn't know there was also military history included.
There's military history. There's. Well, Horn Dog, yeah, you're in for a treat if you didn't.
I'm way behind now.
Yeah. The last thing with just like the cultural aspects of Cooltopia education, no one has to go to school if they don't want to. Like children are welcome to attend school if they want. Reading, writing, math, tinkering with machines, and quote unquote investigating the long lost age of magic. Nerd. Link, I love it. But then there's the Royal College for like gifted children in Diamond City. So if you're like super smart, you can go to the Royal College, Or if your child is really gifted at times, you can go to like special schools. And for some, this is like a really interesting attention to detail that Link wrote, which is like an entire family may uproot themselves and move to a larger city because so that they can get their kid into that gifted school, or that it'll kind of like change their lives for the better. So there's that. Then we get to the historic wars. All right, buckle up, folks. This is like the most violent we get in Cooltopia here. So we mentioned earlier, like the Calamites and the Underkin are kind of the evil kind of creatures of Cooltopia. You got the yeah. I feel like as we're talking through this, like Clon's kind of like writing notes to Link to be like, dude, you gotta tone this down, man. This is like, I just heard it out loud and it sounds kind of crazy.
No, we need some bad stuff. Nothing's always good.
It's true.
Come on.
It's true. So the Calamites and Underkin are kind of the bad folks of Cooltopia. The oldest war is called the War of Magic. And that happened centuries ago. So long ago that like no one even remember like how the war ended or why it began. So this was like the Calamites, which are those parasitic kind of feeling creatures that attach to these Underkin goblin creatures. And basically the Calamites put these like negative thoughts into the Underkin's minds. Everyone goes crazy. There's all this magic war happening stuff. And basically at the end, items from the war are strewn all across Cooltopia. So I would imagine, I don't even know in the Gathering if that's a thing, but I'd imagine like you're finding like magical items throughout Cooltopia that are super rare. Because magic doesn't really exist in today's modern day of Cooltopia, but there's something that used to exist back in the past, and those relics are still around. So that's the big old war. Then there's two more wars that are more recent. You've got the Swarm of the Eastern Cliffs. And this is where Jasper City has major PTSD. Like to this day, the walls of Jasper City are still crumbling. They're still broken down. There was a huge war here for years with the Underkin. The local guard of Jasper City could not even handle this. They had to call in the Royal Guard from Diamond City to come and help. So it basically was Diamond City's Royal Guard plus the local guard of Jasper City fighting, trying to keep the Underkin enemies and close off the entrance. And to this day, there are still older folks in Jasper City that still remember this war because it was that recent. And then the last war is the Great Underkin Raid, which was the most recent one. It took place in Obsidian Town. Again, swarms of Underkin raided and almost overran the city. The Royal Guard couldn't even make it in time this time. So, again, I sound crazy, but the town had to request help from the frogs of Frog Swamp. And these frogs and local guards basically fought off the Underkin and saved the city. So, again, Link, you madman. Horndog is just probably like, what is happening right here? I don't know.
Horndog, it sounds like a violent land. I want to know like, what's the time period? How long ago was the War of Magic? That's what I want.
The War of Magic was so it happened centuries ago, so long ago that there's no one alive here that like witnessed it.
Okay.
And then,
but there's still books in the library.
Yeah, centuries ago.
So they've survived for centuries and centuries. These books.
Yeah, and then the second war is old enough, probably like 80 years, I'd say, that people still remember it. And then this last one seems to be more recent here.
What's like the skill set, do you think, of the frogs of Frog Swamp? And like how big do you think we're talking these frogs are?
I think you got some like bitty frogs, but you got some big boys too. Like you've
got big boys, some big croakers.
Like it's like in the Lord of the Rings where like you're like fighting, everyone's like humanoid in size, and then all of a sudden this giant comes out of nowhere, and like the next 5 minutes is just about how do you take down this like giant. And I feel like there's like a giant frog somewhere here.
I feel like I remember. Yeah, like a megatoad. And then they probably have, I feel like there was like an X-Man he was like a bad guy and his power set was somehow oriented around having a big long frog tongue. Does that ring a bell for anyone? I'm imagining big frogs with like dexterous tongues that they can do some damage with.
Sir, you're sounding like Link right now. You're sounding
Yo,
crazy.
or what was the NES game? Battletoads? Was that what it was?
Yes, it was.
Hell
Battletoads it
yeah.
was.
Battletoads were like badass, like gun toting. It was like Contra, but with toads, basically. So maybe that's like what we're talking about here. And it wasn't really a side scroller, right? It was more like you fell down forever. I don't, Retro, you should know this.
Retro, this is up your alley, man. Like Battletoads feels like something you should educate us on.
Yeah, so it really was this, kick-ass version of a up game, and it basically was, in my opinion, an allusion to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They recently
Okay.
did a remaster of the game, so if you're interested in playing the game, you can definitely check that out. But definitely would be interesting to see that in something in the in the Cool Cats world.
Do you
But
think you could make a skin and rebrand it as the Frogs of Frogtown? And we could get some Clon art to really get it popping.
honestly, if the new game is on Steam Workshop or on Steam and it allows for workshop mods, I will literally see if I can do something about that, because that would actually be hilarious, and I would love to do that.
Do you think any of the frog cats have relation to the frogs?
Yo, maybe. Or just like it's an homage, right? Like the Frogs of Frog Swamp are my boys.
Yeah.
So I've got this gear.
Or are they wearing the heads of? No, we're not going down that route.
No, come on. That's too far. That's too far. I see what you're doing.
Yeah, they're wearing the heads. Let's go.
But now that you're saying it, right? Like the Royal Guard, like maybe they've got the black helms like Zupa's cat.
That's true. That's true.
Or do you?
I think some
really
black
connect the dots here.
Black Knight helmet does feel very Royal Guard to me.
Right? Just like that extra level of badass kind of.
So that's the wars. Then we got the last piece. I'll just brush through here.
The war. Now that we're done with military history.
Yeah. Now that we're done with
we've
military,
already done food and resources. I take it I missed geography. And I also heard you talking about law and order.
We didn't talk too much about food. I think there's just like a list of food there, so I didn't.
Did you talk about technology? Because here's what I want to know.
No, that's next.
Sincere question. Okay, all right. So fine. We know there's like long lost magic, whatever. Cool.
Yeah.
But these cats, there are some astronaut cats.
Yeah.
So that implies to me that there is some level of sophistication with space travel, whether that's currently in use or if that's some long ago technology that's sort of been rediscovered by the current civilization. It does imply we've got like you're also telling me these kids like don't even have to go to school, but meanwhile we might have rocket scientists who can put cats into space.
I'm glad you asked that question, Horn Dog, because what the Gitbook tells us is that the modern day of Cooltopia is very primitive. Like we're talking primitive. They don't even have electricity. Like the only electricity are coming from these large stones in the world that emanate a strange power source. And the villages, towns,
convenient. That sounds very convenient.
The village, towns, and cities locate themselves around these big stones. So it sounds like two prerequisites to like have a village, town, or city. Like be somewhere near some stones that emanate energy and also be near a milk lake. Like those seem to be like a successful town right there. And then like
you got to secure those resources, right?
Yeah, like location, right? That's where you got to be. And then the tech side of things is that the lore says like these tech equipment, like one-eyed visors, like those space visors, those futuristic green visors, and the large glass helmets have been found across Cooltopia. So it's very mysterious as to where they're coming from, because they're not being created by Cooltopians.
Okay, but similar question. If they're a primitive species, that also implies to me they don't have television, and yet we know some cool cats have TV heads. So
Correct.
Where did these TVs come from? And why do some of them play Bob Ross? You know, like I feel like there's a loophole here.
I don't mean to FUD the lore, but this is maybe a gap in the Cool Cats lore, because on the first pages of the Cool Cats lore, it does talk about how, you know, this takes place in a modern environment where you may see things like televisions and things like that. But then you get to this technology section and all of a sudden there's no electricity. There's a primitive lifestyle. Like those,
Right?
You've called out like a very like conflict there. Yeah.
I mean, they have Windows XP. Like, we know this.
Yeah. Yeah. At the very least, they're in a 1999, 2000 technology type of sorts. Yeah.
Where you still might end up with no signal on your television, for example.
Yes.
Or get a 404 screen. But when you're trying to access Bob Ross on TV, you might have trouble with the signal, but
it's true.
You otherwise have limited
radio signal wave from like a faraway land, like from beam from Earth. I don't know. Or Bob Ross could have reincarnated into a magical relic. We don't know.
I mean, you know, his show's been around for long enough at this point, I guess. But sure. if this is really a different land, like we got to think about how he might have ended up there.
It's true.
I also want to know, so is there like a section on, you know, craftsmen in Cooltopia? Because like somebody's making like insane drip for the cats. Somebody's making like dope sunglasses, like at least 4 or 5 different kinds. Like there's got to be somebody who's like in monocles and things like that, right? Like these don't just like, unless there's like a monocle tree.
Yeah. No, the craftsman is a key job in Cooltopia. Like you have the orders, as they call it, which are essentially guilds of like blacksmith, tailor, alchemists, innovators, heroes, etc. So yeah, you've got people.
So we don't have magic, but we do have alchemists.
Yes, we have alchemists.
Okay. I'm just trying to clarify.
Well, yeah, I mean, they do find rare magical elements, right? They just might not know how to access it. So perhaps the alchemist job is to try to unlock the magical powers that were once strewn across the land. That's all I'm saying.
We're like differentiating between perhaps magical items and resources and like spells. Sounds like.
Yeah, I think the magic section details out that magic has mainly been lost. No one is capable of casting spells anymore. So spells was once a thing here. And like an example of certain magical elements that people use are like the orders, like we talked about. Like they pass them down from generation to generation. So there might be strange rocks that help water the surrounding crops. So like the farmer order has this like magical thing and they're in high demand, but it basically creates water for their crops. And then the last piece is religion. There is religion in Cooltopia. and it's mainly centered around kind of this natureship kind of feel, and a lot of the deities are aligned to a lot of the orders. So you've got like a sea deity, a rock deity, a harvest deity, a liquid deity, and deity of invention. And a lot of the Cooltopians, like, they're not active like worshippers, or they don't go to the shrines that often and things like that, but they wear like trinkets at times for their favorite deity. And that is that's everything I could comb through within the role of Cooltopia. I've lost my mind at this point. I have no sense of reality, but I'm curious, Horndog, Sniper, Zupa, Retro, or even Clon, what's going through our minds now?
I mean, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, did you go over weapons and armor?
I did not.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Sniper. Sorry.
I mean, good night. Do you want to go over weapons and armor first?
I didn't do a deep dive on that, so I don't have much to say. So I think it was a list of different weapons.
Yeah, basically just
and
lists
armor,
all the different weapon types. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a ton of different weapon types out there. Axes, maces, swords, and things like that. But I didn't see anything that was like kind of interestingly unique about that in Cooltopia.
I would say for me, I'm really excited. You know, it looks like we have a lot in store. Curious to see if anything changes, what does change beforehand. But overall, I just hope that it rolls out in a successful way that everybody's happy with. I hope we get some announcements on it. And I mean, we've been getting a lot of stuff here recently. So I'm just hoping that everything goes good as we get them. And we continue to get updates like that. So overall, I'm happy with what I read. I felt like it was very it was a lot. It was a lot to unpack, but I mean, you did the best that you could, and yeah, that's what I got for you. Sorry, I'm in the middle of building the Millennium Falcon still, so I'm all over the place right now.
Yeah, priorities though. Priorities.
Clon,
Right.
what's your take on hearing us just spit out all the Cooltopia lore, or the majority of it?
To me, so I won't dive too much more into it because I've been sitting here just kind of listening to you guys all speculate and enjoying it. I feel like the one thing I want to say, and I don't want to speak on Link's behalf, but no one has really, in my eyes, really told like a Web3, like a story that kind of was built off of Web3. And there's very much room for adjustments and to adjust a little bit of the story, because we've always wanted your guys' input as well, and just everything, and like very much kind of like the Twitch streams with creating different trait assets. It's just fun to kind of get that collaborative back and forth with you guys. And like Tepnu didn't exist until CoolCats, and that's what I really love about this. So I'm interested to see where the story goes with everything we have now, and everything as a community we kind of like pave with it.
That's an interesting point. So do you see kind of like the evolution of the lore involving the community's input, or is it through like future kind of events and activities that we'd all kind of shape this together? Or
I honestly have no idea how it will truly play out, because I feel like it always happens just randomly. Like no one was planning to create. I always come back to Tepnu, but it's just like no one was planning to create Tepnu. It sort of just happened out of like making fun of how hard the puzzle was and just coming up with a random answer. And so I feel like there'll be a lot of moments like that, especially with these character releases, and like just like I don't know, or like I might be on stream, like for instance Little Chugs was just happening as we were drawing something else. And so I feel like there might be opportunities to be like, okay, this has to be fit into the lore, how do we do it? And it's just it excites me because there's always something new around every corner.
And then for this this lore that we just tried to summarize, which is like a lot. How is the team using this? Like, is this mainly meant as kind of a thing to kind of share with the world holders to kind of get a sense of the world, or is this a tool that you guys use internally within Cool Cats going forward?
I think it's both. It's both so that you all can kind of understand, because for a while Cooltopia was getting very much paired with the web experience, whereas I guess in our minds the whole time was like it was the beginning of explaining the world that we're in. And so now it's, painting the picture for you all that there's geography to this, there's actual reason behind certain things. And for us, yes, it's like, cool. Now we actually have like, in a way, like a brand Bible of geography and lore that we can stick to and like build upon.
Yeah, for me, I've been waiting for something like this for so long. So it's been so awesome to be able to see it, because I think there's so much potential that we all know with Cool Cats, and to go beyond just a generative PFP picture, you have to have geography, you have to have context, you have to have backstory, a history, and also a sense of like where everyone's going and a sense of conflict. So as much as I joke, I sounded crazy, or Link sounds crazy writing this, like it's exactly the kind of thing like I just love sinking my teeth into. And I think you guys can tell I've obviously sunk my whole teeth into it, maybe a little too much here, but I'm like nerding out about everything here because it's just it's a ton of fun. Like it's an escape too, and it's not even thinking how it'll show up in the game necessarily for me or things like that, but I think I just always appreciate where you guys have put this much thought into it, and actually um, you know, it's like the Steve Jobs story where when he was a kid, like he was painting a fence with his dad, and it's like, his dad painted the backside of the fence that no one would see, and he's like, "Why are you painting that? Like you wouldn't like no one's ever gonna see the backside of the fence. Why are you spending so much time on that?" And he was like, "Well, you'll know. Like you'll know that." It's painted, and that's what's the important part, that attention to detail. And I feel like this world piece, maybe 50% of it, 60% of it ever makes it into whatever Cool Cats becomes, but the other 50% behind the scenes was all there to help kind of set a foundation and to shape what the world was going to be and all the products that come out of it. And if no one sees it, at least you guys know it's there, and it's subconsciously helping you create something greater.
No, I mean, that's exactly it. Kind of like, seasons or historical events, or like, with these character drops, it's like, well, cool, but where do they live? And more importantly, why? Like, why are they where they're located in certain things? And that's what I really appreciate about Link, is he's constantly thinking about those like whys. It's like, okay, but why? And like, with Cool Cats, I just created a bunch of fun assets, like the astronaut helmet and the visor. But it's like, okay, how does this work in the Cooltopia world? Just things I wouldn't normally think of, because it's like, yeah, they need to be explained, because if it comes up in the lore and the story or whatever, and that question gets asked, it's good to have that already figured out. And kind of like the example of the fence, I know it's there, and it's good for us to know that.
Yeah. Another question I had for you, Clon, was just like a look behind the scenes, which is like Link, and if anyone doesn't know, his wife is P-Moz, who's also on the team. I know that she hates being on stages, so she'll never come up here and talk to us probably. But she's like someone who is also big on the lore building. Clon, do you have any insight into kind of how they work together to kind of create some of this lore and story building?
Yeah, so where P-Mouse really thrives is, or I'll put it in Link's words, is like he has this like mess of lore and just story and just whatever that he'll like just throw onto a page, and she makes it look better and sound better. So she's really good at the writing aspect of it and the storytelling and like using the words to explain it. instead of just like a bunch of jotted notes or something. Yeah, but I love those two together, and I doubt she'll ever come on Twitter Spaces, but just like we're trying to do drawing streams, we very much want to do like lore and story time streams as well, just for more content.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think again, if no one's had a chance to read through the lore, it's, and this is probably her doing, like, it's very eloquently written. Like it's told in a very lyrical way. It's very well structured. It's not just a ton of facts. There's a lot of thought that has gone into constructing these like sentences and paragraphs. So great job to them. Any other questions you guys have for Clon before we close out this week's very densely filled lore spaces? Retro.
Yeah. So, Clon, what is your most exciting thing within the lore that you'll get to illustrate? If that makes sense.
Ooh, I mean, I kind of hinted at it before. I'm really excited to get into Diamond City because I just think it's so dense and there's a lot in there. And since it's the most populated, like just like any city compared to like, or even some of the like the Wandering Territory or some of the villages that are around, and just kind of like the contrast between what life is like in a city and what life is like in some of these rural areas. So that's going to be a fun thing to kind of toy around with. It's just like I said, that contrast of how they look, and getting into the geography more, and like what is the fort of 9001 Meows look like and things like that, because that's one of the most like ancient places and locations on the map. So to me, like all of that, I guess, and really everything, because it's just I've never gotten to this stage of like character creation and lore, of where there really is like a clear map of what needs to be drawn and kind of visually story told. So it's exciting.
As an, and we're gonna have like Kitty Cakes on here too to kind of share how she kind of like in a few weeks helps illustrate for your vision. But like so much of Cool Cats is, I feel like, Clon, I'm curious to hear just like as an artist, what does it mean and what does it feel like to share in a collaborative way, like your vision and your world with all these other people and trust them with it and build something together there?
Not gonna lie, at first it was extremely difficult. If anything, that's been one of the most difficult, like I guess controlling thing, just like from the art side, to have to like give up, but also be okay with like that other people can bring their ideas and it works. And it's at the point where I love it now, and the art department, it's filled with Katie, Agnes, Emma, and Midnight, and it's what you realize is like kind of when you relinquish that control of everything has to be by me or something like that, like you have a lot of opportunity for that vision just to expand quicker and in better ways, because you just have more minds thinking on it. And like, I'll always be the creative director and kind of like still give a final say in things, but it sometimes even then, like I don't need to, because there's just so many awesome ideas coming from this team internally. But it was tough at first to kind of like take a step back just a little bit while I kind of deal with some higher level thinking. But yeah, that's a good question.
That's awesome to hear. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're all, I think Andrew said it best in kind of that interview he did on Overpriced JPEGs. A lot of us are here for your vision, but that vision's expanding and you're just one man. And as long as you have trusted partners and people you can collaborate with, like, that's awesome. We're here for the ride. All right. Any other questions for Clon?
I don't have any questions, but I do want to say thank you for stopping by and answering what you could. Greatly appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah, it's sometimes I can't make it to these because I'm either like eating dinner or having to like, or Deej just gets home and she wants to spend time. But I always listen to the recordings, so I do love when I can stop by. And I will say, sometimes I love just being in the audience. Not to say I don't love coming up, but it is fun to like sit there and like listen to y'all speculate, and it's just fun and it's refreshing to me. And like, you know, there's definitely ideas that come up. So I'm like, okay, this is going into the notebook. So thank you guys for even hosting these, and I really appreciate it. It's fun. It's fun for me.
It's been a blast, and we've got a ton of guests coming in the upcoming weeks too. So yeah, Clon, love to see you in the crowd, in the audience, whenever you can. And thanks again for joining us, and thanks everyone for listening. And hopefully, the lore was digestible for everyone here. But appreciate everyone's time, and as usual, we like the cats.
We like the cats.
We like the cats.
Yo, I like the cats.
Yo, I like
Yo.
No, I like the cats, man.
Yo, I like it.
Yo.
All right,
let's Joe.
All right, hell yeah. Ready for the Joe
Let's
Mento.
go.
Yeah.